For as long as I can remember, I have had like digestive issues like my whole life. Like I remember as early as like kindergarten, I would have to go home early because I couldn't poop, and I vomited like in the classroom and everything. And so that kind of was treated with like laxatives, stuff like that, for a while. And eventually it got to a point where I guess threw up randomly while I was eating something. Like I've already gotten my treatment, like with my laxatives. I've already been eating a lot of fiber, so I didn't really know what was happening. I was eating some ramen made by my mom, which I love. It has shrimp and cucumbers added on top. You should really try that. Anyway, yeah, I puked it all up, like, before I was even able to, like, reach my stomach. And that was the start of a very fun journey. Note that this was, like, around the time I was, like, freshly 19. Yeah, I was freshly 19. And so I was supposed to be getting a job, and I was seeing, like, people to help me with getting a job because I'm disabled with, like, my constipation issues and like a billion other things that are related to that and not related to that at the same time. I don't fucking know. One of those conditions was Hashimoto's, which is a disease where your immune system attacks your thyroid. So basically, my immune system is fucking stupid and likes to attack parts of my body that it really shouldn't be. I mean, any part of your body shouldn't be attacked, but, you know. The fun thing about autoimmune diseases is that when you have one, that means it's very likely that you'll have another. Like, at least at that point, or maybe, like, at later down the line. And I found that out the hard way because during this time when I was, like, throwing up and stuff, it just kept on building up because I wasn't getting the right treatment. I kept on doing things wrong. I ended up bleeding out my ass, and then, like, a couple months later, I was like, my mom was like, okay, we need to bring you to the hospital. This is getting way too bad. I already went to the hospital a couple times before, but they just, like, put IV liquid in me and then sent me back home, and I got to watch, like, Cartoon Network for a couple hours. But that was all they did. And then they were like, okay, this is the third time you've come in here. You're obviously very sick, and you can't keep anything down. We have to do a biopsy. And they, like, shoved a camera down my throat and up my ass, and they put me on, like, a bunch of different medicine. And one of those medicines was fentanyl, and that's how I win True Truths and a Lie, because no one expects someone like me to ever be on fentanyl, but it was for medical reasons, and they made me see kaleidoscope colors. It was very trippy experience. I was, like, asleep and awake at the same time, and I was still very dehydrated because you can't eat or drink anything before, like, any sort of, like, invasive thing like that. So I couldn't eat or drink anything for a couple hours after that until they were like, okay, you can eat something, but it's a liquid-only diet, so, like, the only solid thing you can eat is, like, Jell-O and stuff, and yogurt. So I had to deal with that for, like, a day, and then after that I was on a low-fiber diet while my fucking body was healing. But before that, the biopsy they gave to my ass, it requires you to get, like, them to get, like, some skin and stuff out of your butt. And obviously that causes, like, a lesion, and I was already losing a lot of blood from, like, bleeding out all the time. So, like, my body wasn't able to, like, heal correctly, and so I guess had a giant blood clot in my ass that I ended up shitting out, and it was, like, the size of a large banana. Apparently even larger, but that's what I remember. My mom says that was, like, the size of an infant, like a newborn infant. Like, congratulations, it's a giant fucking blood clot thanks, I'm going to go back to bed. And then when I, like, after that, I was just like, okay, I guess I'm gonna die now. And I kind of just, like, accepted the fact that I was going to die of blood loss, but obviously the doctors didn't allow that. They, like, hooked me up on 4 blood bags and 4 plasma bags, and I was like, oh, I'm still alive. Okay, cool. I think the weirdest part about that whole experience is that, like, during that moment where I just completely lost my fear of death, and I was just accepting my fate, like, I think I fear going back to that state more than death itself. Is just, like, going to a point where I just completely forget my own fears because I'm so out of it and I'm so close to death. This was around Christmas, by the way, so while I was in the hospital, I had to deal with, like, a week's worth of holiday specials constantly playing because that was the only thing on TV, and I couldn't do anything because one of my arms was bandaged from, like, the blood test they give, and the other arm had 3 different IVs with 3 different types of medicine being pumped into me. So I had to deal with a bunch of Christmas specials, so I did get to see Willy Wonka twice in a row, like 2 nights in a row, and I was, like, absolutely, like, ecstatic about that because I'm in love with that movie. I was in love with that movie because it was, like, the only non-holiday special thing I got to watch. And that and, like, Cartoon Planet, and I think it's way funnier to watch that kind of show if you're, like, cooked up on a lot of drugs at the hospital. I think that's the way you're supposed to consume that show because it's a lot funnier when you're drugged up than, like, when you're sober in any way, you know? But that's besides the point. Once I was finally, like, able to, like, walk and stuff and go to the bathroom on my own and whatever, I was finally let out of the hospital after 5 days, and, like, I finally got to go home to my mom's, and since all that happened around Christmas, I didn't actually get to experience Christmas until, like, New Year's, and I couldn't really get much because they were too busy buying, like, paying for my medical bills and whatever. But it was still cool. I got, like, a couple of, like, stupid bootleg figurines because my mom knows I love that dumb shit. And I think the best gift that I got that year was being alive. It's way better than dying, you know? And I got to see my mom's cat, and everything was fine in the end. And yeah, that's the story about how I almost fucking died. And if it wasn't for those cool ass doctors that were really nice, I would not be here today. So thank you to those doctors that I will not name because I don't want to dox myself. And by the way, the disease that I'm talking about that almost killed me, I forgot to mention this for some reason. It's Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Very fun conditions where your immune system just attacks your fucking your intestines for no fucking reason, and it causes me to have flare-ups. But now I'm getting treatment for it for Remicade, which is also used for arthritis. So I don't get flare-ups as often, but it still happens on occasions if I don't, like, eat the right things. Because, I don't know, my body's just sensitive and fucked up. But yeah, that's the real end of the story.